The night I almost didn't wake up, my scare that changed everything. I never thought my own bedroom, the place I considered my personal haven, could become the most dangerous room in my home. It happened one quiet evening in early spring. I had just turned 74 a few months earlier. Life had slowed down for me in the peaceful way I'd hoped for. Retirement had gifted me stillness. No meetings, no alarms, no rush. I had a good routine. Morning walks, afternoon tea, a bit of reading. Before bed. That night, nothing felt out of the ordinary. I had brushed my teeth, pulled the covers over me, and set the lamp to low. But sometime after midnight, everything changed, the fall that shook my confidence. I remember waking up suddenly. I had the urge to use the bathroom, which had become a normal part of my nights as I aged. But what happened next wasn't normal at all. As I swung my legs over the bed and placed my feet on the floor, I didn't notice that my slipper had slipped, halfway under the bed. It twisted under my foot, and before I could react, I lost my balance. It wasn't a hard fall, but it was disorienting. I landed on my side, hitting my shoulder against the nightstand. My elbow scraped the corner of a photo frame that had once held a picture of my late wife. I lay there for nearly 5 minutes, stunned. Not just from the fall, but from the realization that I had no one nearby to help me up. That's when it hit me. I wasn't as safe as I had assumed. Not in my bedroom, not even in my own body. The most dangerous place is where you feel most comfortable. When you're over 70, you learn to listen to your body more closely. You notice the creaks in your knees, the slow rise from a chair, the way your fingers tremble slightly when you're pouring tea. But what we often don't notice are the subtle threats hiding in our environment, especially in the bedroom where we spend up to a third of our lives. After that night, I couldn't fall asleep easily for weeks. I kept playing the moment over in my mind. What if I had hit my head? What if I couldn't get up at all? What if help never came in time? My children lived out of town. My neighbors were kind but distant. I realized that if anything serious had happened, no one would have known until morning, and that was the night everything changed. Fear turned into determination. Once the initial fear wore off, it was replaced by something stronger, determination. I didn't want to live in fear of my own home, and I certainly didn't want to wait for the next close call to take action. So I decided to take control, one step at a time, starting with the very room I thought was safest. I took a notepad and began to examine my bedroom with new eyes, not as someone who had lived in it for decades, but as someone who was vulnerable. Someone who had aged. Someone who could fall again. Maybe worse next time. I made a list that night. I didn't know it then, but that list would save me. The danger. List I didn't want to write. Here's what I wrote down. Things I had never noticed before. A loose rug at the foot of the bed that always curled at the corners. Dim lighting near the door that made it hard to see clearly during nighttime. Trips to the bathroom. Cords and chargers running across the floor beside the bed. Furniture edges just sharp enough to bruise or break skin in a fall. No grab handles or support near the bed or bathroom entrance. An old mattress that made getting up harder than it needed to be. All of these seemed minor before the fall. But now they felt like landmines waiting to go off. When memory fades, danger grows. Another thing I noticed, something I was embarrassed to admit at first, was how easily I forgot where I had placed things. My reading glasses, my watch, the flashlight, even the phone sometimes. After 70, your mind starts to feel like an attic. You know everything is there, somewhere. But finding it takes time. That's when I realized something crucial. Disorganization is not just an inconvenience at this age. It's a risk, fumbling around in the dark at 2 a.m. for something you thought was on the nightstand but isn't. That can lead to disaster. So I added that to my list too. Reorganize nightstand essentials. Flashlight within reach. Phone on charger. Nothing fragile near the edge. The emotional impact of the fall. What they don't tell you about falling after 70 is how it shakes your spirit. I've always considered myself strong and independent. I raised a family, worked for 40 years, traveled halfway across the world. And yet a single fall in my bedroom left me feeling fragile in a way I hadn't before. I didn't feel old until that night. But here's the important part. I didn't let that become my story. Instead, I turned that vulnerability into awareness. I didn't just upgrade my bedroom, I upgraded my perspective. I became more alert, more proactive, and oddly, more peaceful because I knew I was doing something about it. A wake-up call. I'm grateful for. Looking back now, I'm almost thankful for that night. It was a wake-up call, not just for me, but hopefully for others who hear this story. We think danger lives outside, in traffic, in bad neighborhoods, in public spaces. But sometimes, the greatest threat is where we're most relaxed, and that's why I want to tell everyone over 70 this truth. Your bedroom might be the most dangerous place in your home, and it doesn't have to be. The silent hazards. You never notice. Until it's too late. I used to think that danger had a sound, a crash, a bang, a shout, something loud and unmistakable. But as I've grown older, I've come to realize that the most dangerous things in my life now are silent. They don't announce themselves. They don't warn me. They just quietly sit there, waiting for me to trip, to slip, or to forget. And many of them live right in my bedroom. After that fall I mentioned in part 1, I began to see things I'd never noticed before. Not because they were new, but because I had always walked past them without thinking. Now I looked at my surroundings through the eyes of someone who had barely dodged a worse outcome. What I discovered scared me more than that fall ever did. Clutter, the hidden enemy of safe aging. I've never considered myself messy. In fact, I'd say I'm relatively organized, but even with everything in its place, I noticed how many non-essential items I had in my bedroom. Extra shoes I didn't wear, stacks of books, an old space heater, a clothes rack leaning near the closet. None of it seemed threatening until I imagined myself needing to move quickly. What if I needed to get out fast in the dark? Or if I had a dizzy spell and had to steady myself? Suddenly, that corner of books looked like an accident waiting to happen. I started removing things. Slowly, intentionally. Each night I made it a rule. If I hadn't used it in the past 30 days, it didn't belong in my bedroom. I even went through my bedside drawers, where I found expired medicine, loose batteries, and paper clutter that had absolutely no business being that close to where I sleep. Rugs and floor traps, a senior's stealthiest. Let me tell you something about rugs. They are liars. They promise warmth and comfort under your feet. They look cozy and feel inviting. But after 70, they become one of the most deceptive dangers in your entire home. One of the biggest hazards I found was a beautiful but loose throw rug at the edge of my bed. It had been there for 10 years, never caused me trouble before. But when I inspected it closely, I saw the corners had started to curl, and the surface was slightly uneven from years of wear. Worse, the rug slid slightly when I stepped on it with socks. Now imagine waking up in the middle of the night, half asleep, stepping onto that surface with a sleepy gait and a wobbly knee. So I did what most people don't. I got rid of the rug. I replaced it with a non-slip mat, securely fastened to the floor. It wasn't as pretty maybe, but it was safe. And when you're in your 70s, safety is beauty. Poor lighting. The danger in the shadows. My eyes have changed over the years. Yours probably have too. Colors aren't as vivid. Reading small text takes longer. But what I hadn't realized is how lighting becomes a life-saving factor after a certain age. I used to have just a single lamp next to my bed and a switch near the door. At night, I'd have to walk across the dark room to turn on the main light. It was fine when I was 50, not so fine now. I had a friend, George, who tripped over his cat one night in the dark hallway between his bedroom and bathroom. Broke his wrist, and the cat never forgave him, so I installed motion sensor nightlights along the baseboards, soft, warm lights that guide my path without blinding me. I also switched out my old yellowish lamp bulbs for LED daylight bulbs. Better visibility, less strain. It's a small change, but I can't tell you how much calmer I feel moving around at night. Electrical cords, the snake beneath your feet. Cords are sneaky. They start out neat and coiled. Then, one day, you look down and they've multiplied like vines. Phone charger, heating pad, lamp cord, extension plug, oxygen machine for those who use one. They're thin and silent, yet deadly. I used to have a tangle of cords right next to my nightstand. My charger cord would often dangle loosely. More than once, I caught my foot in it. After doing a full safety audit of my bedroom, I invested in cord organizers and wall-mounted cable clips. I rerouted everything behind furniture and taped down any sections that could trip me. It's not glamorous, but again, it's peace of mind. Loose furniture and unstable fixtures. I once leaned against my tall dresser while putting on socks, only to feel it wobble slightly. Turns out one of the legs had become loose. It made me realize, as we age, we tend to lean more on furniture for balance, especially when getting dressed. But much of our older furniture isn't built for that. It's decorative, not supportive. So I went through my bedroom and tested everything. Nightstands, lamps, wall shelves. If I could shake it, tip it, or lean on it and feel it move, it got fixed or replaced. No emergency access. This one was hard to admit, but I had no plan for an emergency. No emergency button, no reachable phone, no flashlight within arm's reach. And with my mobile always on silent mode at night, who would I even call if I fell and couldn't get up? Now I keep my phone within reach, not buried under books or papers. I also bought a wearable emergency alert button, and I keep a flashlight clipped to the side of my bed frame. I even placed a bright sticker on the flashlight and phone so they're easy to find, even when my vision is foggy. The truth is in the details. These silent hazards don't scream or shout. They sit quietly in the background of our lives, waiting for a moment of weakness. But here's the thing. I wouldn't have noticed them unless I looked. That's what I want you to take away from this section. Just because something hasn't hurt you yet doesn't mean it won't. When we were younger, we could afford to ignore the small things. A stubbed toe, a bumped shin, a stumble we could laugh off. But after 70, those same stumbles turn into fractures, hospital visits, or worse. Safety is a mindset, not just a setup. The real danger isn't the cord or the rug. It's the idea that it'll never happen to me. But if you're watching this, I hope you understand it nearly happened to me, and it could happen to anyone. So I urge you, walk into your bedroom tonight with new eyes. Look down. Look around. What don't you see anymore because you've walked? Buy it for decades, fix it, secure it, remove it. Your life might just depend on it. Temperature, air, and toxins. The invisible bedroom. Killers? It's strange, isn't it? How something we can't even see can quietly wear us down. Slowly, over years, until one day our body gives up a little too early. This part of my journey scared me the most, because unlike cords or rugs, I couldn't simply see the danger. I had to learn how to feel it. Sometimes too late. After I turned 70, I began waking up groggy. Not the normal, I need a few minutes to get moving groggy. This was different. My head felt heavy. My breath was shallow. Some mornings I had a slight headache and a sore throat. I blamed it on age. But something told me to dig deeper, and what I uncovered was frightening. Let me walk you through the silent bedroom killers that float around us. The air, the temperature, and the toxins. Air quality. The slow poison. Your bedroom's air should be your sanctuary. Clean, fresh, life-giving. But for years, I was breathing in a cocktail of unseen enemies: dust mites, mold spores, carbon dioxide, and VOCs, volatile organic compounds. My house was clean, or so I thought. But after a home inspection from my granddaughter's husband, he's an HVAC technician, we discovered a layer of mold just behind my headboard on the wall. A tiny patch, maybe the size of a small plate. But the spores, they had been floating into my lungs every night. My mattress was over 12 years old. It held dust mites and microscopic skin particles. My carpet was older, trapping allergens with every footstep. The windows were sealed shut most nights to keep the cold out, so fresh air rarely cycled in. That combination was slowly affecting my breathing and brain function. I invested in a HEPA air purifier. The difference in 1 week was night and day. I started sleeping deeper, waking clearer. I also began airing out my room every morning for 15 minutes, no matter the season. I bought new hypoallergenic covers for my mattress and pillows. And I began vacuuming weekly. Even though I used to do it monthly, your lungs are your body's clock. If they're struggling to breathe while you sleep, you age faster and more dangerously. Temperature regulation. More critical than you think. There's a reason hospitals keep patient rooms cool, not hot. As we age, our body's ability to regulate temperature declines. We're more sensitive to heat, less efficient at cooling down, and more vulnerable to cold-related complications. I used to love sleeping under 3 heavy blankets. Warmth meant comfort, but I didn't realize I was creating the perfect trap for nighttime dehydration and high blood pressure spikes. Excess heat at night raises your heart rate. Cold drafts can constrict your airways or even trigger arthritic flare-ups. Now, I sleep with a smart thermostat set between 65-68 degrees, 18 to 20 degrees. It automatically adjusts based on the outside weather. My blankets are breathable, cotton, not synthetic, and I use layered sheets so I can peel off warmth if needed without getting up. I also placed a thermometer on my nightstand. That small device became one of my biggest protectors. Your room temperature isn't about comfort anymore. It's about survival. Toxins from furniture, paint, and even your pillow. No one told me that the beautiful new dresser I bought was releasing formaldehyde into the air for months, or that the fresh coat of paint I applied to the wall for a new look had high VOC content. Did you know even your foam pillow can release chemicals like toluene or benzene, especially if it's cheap or old? I didn't either. But when I finally investigated why I always had a dry throat and burning eyes in the morning, these invisible toxins were the culprits. I made 3 big changes. I switched to organic, non-toxic bedding, cotton and bamboo. Repainted my room with low VOC paint. It cost a bit more, but I noticed the difference within days, and I bought certified furniture with 0 formaldehyde emissions. The goal isn't to create a sterile box. It's to stop sleeping in a gas chamber we built with good intentions. Humidifiers and dehumidifiers, 2 tools. One mission: my winters were dry. I thought dry air was just part of the season, but dry air dries out more than skin. It cracks nasal passages, irritates lungs, and worsens sleep apnea or snoring. I'd wake up coughing or with a sore mouth, unaware my airways were drying like old parchment. Now, I use a humidifier in winter and a dehumidifier in summer, depending on humidity levels. Too much moisture breeds mold. Too little dries your defenses. The ideal indoor humidity? 40–60%. I keep a small hygrometer by my lamp to check. Bedroom plants, the natural guardians. This was something I learned late, but wish I had earlier. Some houseplants act like natural air purifiers. NASA even published a study on it decades ago. I added peace lilies, snake plants, and English ivy to my room. All easy to care for, all proven to remove pollutants like benzene, formaldehyde, and carbon monoxide. Not only did my air feel fresher, but the touch of green brought emotional peace too. Studies show plants can reduce stress and promote sleep just by being nearby. It's strange. I thought my bedroom was perfect before, but it was slowly poisoning me in ways I never saw. Silent night isn't always safe. Night. Let me tell you about something many seniors ignore. Carbon monoxide. It's called the silent killer for a reason. Odorless, tasteless, invisible, and common. Old heaters, gas lines, or even fireplaces can leak just enough to cause dizziness, confusion, and sleep disturbances, even at low levels. Most carbon monoxide incidents happen at night. I installed a CO detector just outside my bedroom door. A small thing. Cheap. But it could save my life, or yours. The most dangerous things are always invisible. What scares me now isn't tripping over my slippers or bumping into furniture. It's what I can't see, the chemicals, the particles, the heat. The invisible hazards that whisper me into discomfort or illness without ever raising their voice. But now that I've cleared the air, literally, I sleep better. I breathe deeper. And I wake up feeling like I've added years to my life, not taken them away. It took a while, it took research, and it took honesty with myself. But if you're over 70 or love someone who is, don't wait until the air becomes your enemy. The emotional traps of the bedroom. Loneliness, depression, and disconnection. There's a strange silence that creeps into your bedroom after a certain age. It isn't just the absence of noise, it's the absence of connection. And sometimes, that silence can be the loudest thing in the room. I never thought my bedroom would become a place where I felt most alone. But it happened. Let me take you back. My wife passed away 3 years before my 75th birthday. I'd grown used to our quiet conversations before bed, the warmth of someone breathing next to me, the small talks about the day's worries, even the arguments. When she was gone, the room became a shell. At first, I didn't notice the emotional decline. I still made the bed. I still turned on the bedside lamp. But something had shifted, not in the furniture, but in me. And what I learned was this. A bedroom doesn't just hold a bed. It holds our emotions. And if left unchecked, those emotions can quietly shape our health, sleep, and will to live. Let me walk you through what I uncovered, painfully and slowly, and how I turned things around. The empty bed syndrome I used. To wake up reaching out, half asleep, thinking I'd feel the curve of her shoulder or the warmth of her hand. Instead, I'd touch nothing but cold sheets. That repeated moment, the realization she wasn't there, was like re-experiencing grief every morning. It was subtle, but over time, it broke something in me. My appetite dipped. My motivation to get up shrank. I stopped reading at night, something I'd loved for 50 years. I slept more during the day to avoid being awake at night. This wasn't laziness. It was emotional fatigue. To heal, I had to make peace with the bed. I changed the sheets. I bought a new set of pillows. I even rearranged the bedroom so I wouldn't keep looking at her side of the bed as it used to be. And here's the strange part. I started sleeping better. Not because I forgot her, but because I made space for myself to exist again. The isolation effect after retirement and the loss of my spouse, days became quiet. Nights became quieter. My phone rarely rang. Visitors came less often. And the bedroom, once a retreat, became an emotional trap. Did you know that isolation in seniors increases the risk of death by up to 29%? It raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and even accelerates cognitive decline. My solution wasn't a miracle cure. It was routine connection. I placed a small notebook by my bedside and wrote one short letter every week. Not to send, just to write. I'd write to my children, to my younger self, to my wife, to God. It grounded me. Then I did something harder. I started calling one person every morning after I woke up. No agenda. Just to say, "Good morning." That one act made me feel like I existed again. That someone was aware I was still alive, still thinking, still here. Your bedroom doesn't need to be filled with people. But it mustn't feel like the end of the world either. Let it be a gateway, not a cave. The depression sinkhole. When I began sleeping in until 10 a.m. and not caring whether I changed clothes or brushed my teeth, I knew something was wrong. I was sinking, slowly, into depression. My doctor once told me, if your bed becomes your best friend, depression is likely nearby. I had to force myself to break the cycle. I started making my bed every single morning. That small task, just smoothing the sheet, adjusting the pillows, gave me a tiny sense of control. Then I moved the alarm clock to the other side of the room. I had to get up to shut it off. It was annoying, but it worked. And finally, I began putting a photo on my nightstand each week, rotating through family photos, pictures from trips, even old newspaper clippings from happy days. Those images anchored my mind to moments outside the room. They reminded me that life wasn't over, just quieter. Mental clutter, real consequences. We often think of clutter as physical, laundry on the chair, books on the floor. But mental clutter is worse. Regrets, unspoken grief, worries about health or dying alone. At night, those thoughts become louder. With no one around, they echo. I used to lie in bed thinking about every mistake I made as a husband, as a father, as a young man. It ate away at my peace. So I began a new habit. Every night before I lay down, I'd write 3 things I was grateful for that day, even on the hardest days. It might be the way the tea smelled this morning, a call from my daughter, the sun through the window. This practice rewired my brain. I started noticing beauty again, even in small things. My mind began to quiet down, sleep became easier, and with it, life became lighter. Healing the bedroom. With intention, our bedroom, after 70, should be more than a place to sleep. It should be a healing chamber, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I added a soft lamp with amber light, easier on the eyes and soothing. I replaced the TV with a small radio. I play gentle music or ambient sounds while I read. I painted the walls a softer shade, sage green. It calmed me, and most importantly, I stopped treating the bedroom like a waiting room for death. I treated it like a place to recharge my soul. A final word on this section: if you're over 70, or even approaching it, please don't underestimate the emotional power your bedroom holds. It's not just a room. It's the echo chamber of your mind and memory. Loneliness, depression, and mental stagnation don't have to live there. They can be replaced with intention, with effort, with small rituals. You are not alone in feeling alone. But you are also not powerless. Let your bedroom become a haven, not a trap. Light a candle. Play soft music. Read poetry. Call someone you love. Rearrange the pillows. You might be surprised how healing begins in the smallest, quietest acts. Lighting, layout, and movement. Rebuilding a safer, smarter bedroom. By the time I reached 75, I had experienced a few too many almost accidents. Stubbing my toe on the bed frame, tripping over an old rug, slipping slightly when getting up in the middle of the night. At first, I brushed them off as signs of getting older, but one night, I fell. Not hard, not badly, thank God. But I hit my knee on the way down, and as I sat on the floor, catching my breath in the dark, I realized something very important. My bedroom wasn't aging with me. It was still arranged. For someone in their 40s, not a senior who occasionally lost balance, whose vision was weaker in low light, and whose reflexes weren't as sharp as they used to be. That night became the turning point. I made it my mission to rebuild my bedroom into a safer, smarter space. And I want to share the exact changes I made, not based on theory or internet advice, but from one senior to another. Lighting, the lifesaver. You don't think about. Used to rely on one central light bulb in the ceiling, bright, glaring, and honestly kind of useless when I needed subtle light at night. As I aged, I noticed my eyes struggled to adjust from full brightness to darkness quickly, especially during nighttime bathroom trips. Solution: layered lighting. I invested in motion sensor nightlights, placed along the floor edges near the bed and hallway. These automatically lit up as soon as my feet touched the floor. Dimmable lamps. I put one on each side of the bed. Soft, amber lighting helps signal to your brain that it's time to wind down. A small, battery-powered light inside my wardrobe. It made nighttime dressing easier without blinding myself. These small changes had a big impact. I went from fumbling around to moving with confidence, even half asleep. Flooring. The hidden hazard my bedroom carpet had served me for 25 years, and boy, it showed. The edges were curling, the texture uneven. It felt soft, yes, but it was also a tripping hazard waiting to happen. If you've ever caught your foot on a rug or lost your step when transitioning between carpet and hardwood, you know how dangerous this can be. What I did: removed the large carpet and replaced it with low-pile non-slip rugs that had rubber backing. Nothing slides now. Placed slip-resistant strips under areas where I stand most often, like near the bed and wardrobe. Made sure there was a clear path from bed to door. No clutter, no furniture corners sticking out. I also learned to wear proper slippers, ones with grips underneath. Not those flat, fluffy ones that feel nice, but could skid on smooth floors. Furniture layout. Less is more. You'd be surprised how cluttered a bedroom can feel, even if it doesn't look messy. I used to have a bookshelf, an old armchair, 2 side tables, a decorative trunk, and a large dresser. None of it seemed unnecessary, until I needed to navigate quickly or get out of bed during a dizzy spell. Rearrangement principles I followed. Cleared everything from the center of the room. My walking path is wide and unobstructed. Placed furniture against walls, not in mid-space. Removed one bedside table and replaced it with a wall-mounted shelf. Same function, less bulk. Got a bed with built-in storage drawers, so I didn't need an extra chest or trunk. It's not just about space. It's about accessibility and freedom of movement. The bed your command center at. This stage in life, the bed becomes more than a sleeping surface. It's where I read, pray, rest, reflect, sometimes even do light stretches. So I made my bed my base of comfort and safety. Changes I made. Bought a medium firm mattress, easier to get in and out of and better for my back. Added a bed rail on one side, subtle, padded and discreet, but provides great leverage when rising. Replaced high pillows with ergonomic memory foam ones, helped my neck and reduced waking up with headaches. Placed a tray table nearby, perfect for keeping my phone, medication, water, and glasses within easy reach, and for emergency peace of mind, I placed a wireless call button beside the bed. Never used it, but knowing it's there brings me comfort. The movement mindset. One thing I didn't realize early on was that how I moved in the bedroom was just as important as how the room was set up. Here's what I learned and now practice. I never stand up too quickly. I sit, breathe, count to 3, then rise slowly. I always check where my feet land. No loose socks, slippers, or pet toys underfoot. I stretch for 5 minutes beside the bed each morning. A few shoulder rolls, back twists, leg lifts. They awaken the body gently. I keep a flashlight by the bed, even with motion lights. Sometimes power goes out, and I want backup. The point is, your bedroom shouldn't be a daily obstacle course. It should flow with your needs, not fight them. A few final details. I added a clock with large backlit digits. It helps orient me in the dark without reaching for my phone. Replaced the curtains with blackout shades. They help regulate melatonin and improve sleep. Removed all glass decorations. No risk of breaking or stepping on sharp edges. Hung a soft mirror on the wall. Makes the room feel more open, but safe if bumped. The emotional reward. After making all these changes, I realized something deeper was happening. I no longer feared falling. I didn't resent the room or avoid it. I looked forward to bedtime. I felt in control again. I wasn't fighting my bedroom anymore. I was working with it. And as a result, I felt safer, calmer, and more independent.